I placed a tricolour on my gate in the second week of March this year, something I should have done a long time ago. Its pole was firmly embedded in a hole I made in the wood, and the flag remained there untouched until after St. Patrick's Day. Then one day I was very surprised to find it had been removed and was posted through my letterbox. It was a clear message. Your flag is not welcome here. Your proud claim of Irishness is offensive. I immediately put the flag back outside, in a form of protest. It stayed there for a couple of days and then vanished altogether, probably stolen by some radical leftist who feels it shame that Irish blood runs through their veins. We all know the type. They'd clearly had enough of me, and I in turn have had enough of them, although I've yet to replace my flag. Instead, I'm taking time to compose this call to action. We need to make our presence felt against a rogue, quisling establishment, one that is deliberately usurping the Irish people. If you think this is not your problem, think again. They will bring trouble to your door, sooner or later, and you will have no choice but to acknowledge this inevitability. No man, woman or child of Éire will be untouched by the actions of the unscrupulous politicians and indeed the opposition or government quangos, controlled media and other radical leftists who are destroying this country. The traitors are now resorting to dirty tactics, using our own police force against us, as we have seen in Newtown Mount Kennedy. The combative and arrogant agitator, Commissioner Drew Harris, was carefully selected for the role he is playing out now. Mr. Harris thinks pepper spraying women and minors is justified, and using batons to draw the blood of law-abiding citizens is also justified. Then we have the captured media deceitfully presenting peaceful Irish citizens as mobbish, a casual evil done with delight. However, it has to be said, this one will backfire. They may get away with incorrectly portraying men as instigators of extreme violence, but the public will be less inclined to believe that a woman was involved in such an alleged affray. It seems the press has been tasked with painting regular Irish citizens as dangerous, while ignoring the randomers coming in with no checks, who could be anyone and could have done anything, or may do something, now that they are here. This perhaps sounds like unfair suspicion, but I'm sorry, you are not worthy of our trust if you have concealed who you are. The press don't share that view and won't even report on a migrant making blatant threats to the Irish people. This week we have seen a migrant on social media promising to plant a bomb in Killarney and to rally the support of those he labels as his terrorist friends. And I very much doubt this man is being investigated by Gardaí. Meanwhile, it was widely enunciated that there was a bomb threat on Miss McEntee's massive migrant-free home. The establishment was awfully concerned that her children were said to have been taken from their beds in the middle of the night as a result of the bomb threat that in actuality was probably made up to elicit public sympathy for the minister and further the notion that a dangerous far-right exists. No column inches were given to the children of Newtown Mount Kennedy, who were disturbed out of their slumber in a frightening manner by the sound of riot police storming through their little town late at night. The person least concerned about that is de facto Taoiseach Simon Harris, who rubbed salt in the wounds of Newtown Mount Kennedy locals when he was photo-opped eating a 99 in Dunleary. He was pictured alongside Regina Doherty, who is so woke she thinks there is a bigger variety of genders than there are flavours of ice cream. When I came across this photo of the two on Monday, I immediately recalled a story where 3 people had been killed by listeria-riddled ice cream, and I thought, wouldn't that be the right kind of just dessert to wipe the smug, self-satisfied grins from their faces? But at the end of the day, who needs bombs or ice creams when we simply need to make a stand against these pathetic Judases? And make a stand we must. Both McEntee and Harris have condoned the use of foreign masked, unidentifiable private security thugs being used to intimidate and harass locals in Newtown Mount Kennedy in order that plans can be brought to fruition, and they exclaim that far-right outsiders are infiltrating local communities, while they flood those small communities with actual outsiders who have no legitimate claim. Some of these outsiders are a threat to us. One look at the court cases made public tells us that. And for every one we know about, there's surely 20 or 50 more that we don't. We don't need official statistics. that have been withheld from us, to tell us that migrant men are overrepresented in the sexual crimes coming before the courts, and their victims are often vulnerable and subject to assault in very public places. 3 separate cases have appeared lately in which 2 minors and a young woman with special needs were all sexually assaulted. These cases read like a nightmare version of Planes, Trains and Automobiles, given all 3 victims had their lives turned upside down on public transport. One on a flight, one on a dart, and one on a bus. In 2 of the 3 cases, it was stated by the judge that future reoffending was not a concern, despite no evidence to back up this claim. In the case of the lady with special needs, 9 months was knocked off the already short sentence on this basis, and in the other case, no sentence was given at all. We can all guess who the judge was in both cases. But all in all, the jig is up. We know what's happening to us. We know we don't feel safe, and we know we worry for our children, and that none of it is in our heads. And more we know our politicians want us to feel unsafe. All the while, they are telling us we are more safe than ever. We also know now too that the politicians responsible have to be ousted by the people. The people hold the power. If they didn't, they wouldn't be making an example of Newtown Mount Kennedy locals on the front page of the Sun newspaper. They are afraid of civil unrest. They want to scare us into laying down quietly while they urinate on us from a great height. They are afraid of the people. Never forget that. They also are more concerned with protecting illegal scammers than they are with protecting our country. Never forget that either. The Department of Justice has briefed Helen McEntee that at least 80% of those coming in are economic migrants, and yet she has done nothing to stop them or deport them. For a long time, this document was suppressed to supposedly protect these illegal incomers from public violence. You couldn't make this up. The minister tasked with guarding our national security and the people of Ireland has instead taken to protecting those who have entered after unlawfully destroying their documentation in order to evade border checks. The department was recently forced by the Information Commissioner to release the information I speak of in full, much to their dismay. Everything that is done in the dark is coming to light, and all that is being perpetrated against us is starting to permeate through into the public awareness, despite the refusals to talk about most of it openly in the mainstream. The general public is being unblinkered slowly but surely, and can feel, if not outright see, that everything that is being done is undeniably being done without remorse, without hesitation. It is being done with malice and forethought. They know something is very, very wrong. This can no longer be concealed. Obvious and outright attacks are being perpetrated against us by the establishment, and all the while less obvious but nonetheless just as sinister flanking attacks are also being carried out. One such flanking manoeuvre is the push to suffocate small businesses, not just through destroying our tourism industry, but by increasing council rates to extortionate levels and by clawing back payments loaned out to restaurants, pubs and cafes during enforced lockdowns. As it turns out, very few can pay the tens of thousands or more back to the state loan sharks who have now come calling. None of this is incidental. More empty buildings mean more so-called IPAS centres, which means towns will turn into hopeless ghettos with no jobs and no prospects. They want natives out of these towns for reasons some of us know and some of us will soon come to know. All of this cannot be tolerated, and it will not be tolerated. We must work together to scupper their war games. What we currently have is a government made up of carefully selected, intellectually inadequate frauds and sellouts who will do anything for positions they could never hope to achieve in a conscionable political system. Then we have the compromised. There is a Russian term, kompromat. That is kompromat with a K, a noun meaning compromising information collected for use in blackmailing, discrediting, or manipulating someone, typically for political purposes, using real or forged incriminating evidence. Some of those involved in selling us out will know full well what compromat is. What we also have in the establishment is the power-hungry, morally corrupt, pathological psychopaths and narcissists that are bringing up the rear. We have brainwashed useful idiots rowing in behind all of the above. The government is not careless or inept or acting out of a misguided, haphazard desire to help migrants. The establishment, made up of all the aforementioned types, are actively working against the indigenous people. They are systematically attacking all we know, love, and rightfully naturally possess. They make our children's existence unsafe and unstable. Some of our own, born and bred, are plotting against us. This is a pattern that can be seen across the Western world. Establishments actively working against our own people, working on behalf of globalist interests. Our establishment want us to be another brick in the wall. They want all countries to be just another brick in the wall, a wall that is all the same and devoid of any cultural difference. This is conspiracy theory, some of the ill-informed may say. But it is not. It is a criminal conspiracy, the evidence of which is in abundance if one cares to look a little more closely. If they achieve their aims, they will make society fall apart in a behavioural sink-type fashion. It will make life unbearable. It will keep us on the lowest rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It will be unchangeable, irreversible, permanent, and the worst part would be that we would have to live knowing that this nightmarish tragedy inflicted upon us was utterly preventable. The good news is that for now, for a brief window of time, it still is, and there is hope. The government mask of civility has slipped, and the people have begun to push back. The Irish lead the way. The kind of pushback we saw around the world during lockdowns in New Zealand, for example, is the kind of pushback we are seeing now. Other countries now look to us and say, why aren't we doing what the Irish are doing? In the same way we once looked at them and asked why our people weren't doing what they were doing. We have come a long way, and everything will get worse before it gets better. But this expansive, never-seen-before totalitarian takeover is in the process of being met by an actionable response never seen before by the people. This is the natural order. For every force in nature, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Be part of that reaction. Do it now, or watch the Ireland you grew up in become a lost, unrecognisable, strange land devoid of the spirit of its native people. It has already become a forbidden place. We are forbidden to live as we once did within this land. We are forbidden from expecting respect. We are disallowed our pride, our roots, our indigenous rights. We are now treated as though we are the old, defunct Irish who have no relevance except when they need to beat us down. The so-called new Irish, who they wish to replace us with, do not have meaningful importance to them either. They're just a means to an end. If we don't end this, we will be strangers in our own homeland. We will be a minority sooner rather than later. Our children will be, at best, thrown scraps from the table of a nation owned by those who were gifted it by traitors who had no right to take it in the first instance. If you don't believe me, ask yourself how much charity and opportunity is bestowed upon your children right now. What human rights are afforded to them by our native politicians? How much charity, opportunity, or human rights do you think will be bestowed upon them by the foreign elects who will come to rule over us in time? As a result of a high migrant population and an establishment push for a diversity agenda that is in reality designed to drive out the differences that make all cultures unique, to drive out tribalism, nationalism, and ties to heritage. And of these new Irish candidates who seek to be elected, not one could name an Irish rebel who fought for our freedom. What will that mean for our future? Will our history and ancestry be relegated alongside us? We must not wait to find out, but alas, for most Irish people they struggle to find a way to make a stand against the shock and awe tactics of a hostile domestic government. What you can do is put yourself forward for election. It's a cost of €100, or if you can't pay, you get 14 people to nominate you, and it's free. If you don't want to stand for election, then make sure you are registered to vote for genuine candidates who are. Don't listen to cries to deregister. Right now, doing this would only serve those in power. In an ideal world, we could collapse the system by collectively deregistering, but it's not going to happen right now. And so we must engage with a system we do not wish to engage with. Electing good people will not mean we overnight prevent what is happening. None of us are naive enough to believe that, but it will interrupt the plans being put in place. It will give a voice of legitimacy and a platform to those who can then reach Middle Ireland. Only vote for true, genuine, courageous, independent candidates on June 7th. I will be running for Tala and Stephen for Castlebar, and there's dozens of others to choose from. And when the current round of politicians call looking for your votes, let them feel the full force of your wrath. What else you can do is reach family and friends, talk to parents at the school gates or at the Saturday football match. Talk to people in the pub. Talk to them wherever you find them. Reach them with common sense and well-researched information. You will encourage others to do the same by virtue of this. Make videos too, or write articles. Believe me, if I can do it, anyone can. I am one of the more introverted people that I know. What else you can do is be at the Garden of Remembrance on May 6th at 2:30 p.m. for the national protest. Many from Newtown Mount Kennedy will be in attendance. Come and show them that you know their battle is also yours. Let's make it the biggest protest we possibly can. Also embrace everything that's quintessentially Irish. Learn our language. Use it. Teach your children about our past in order that they want to protect their future. Learn Irish instruments, whatever it may be. Embrace all that is being vanquished in this attack against who we are. Be proud of your Irishness. Put that flag upon your gate. And finally, simply say no. No, I won't. No, you can't. No, I object. No, I don't consent. No, you won't make your millions off putting your human trafficking centres on my doorstep. No, you won't send me leaflets looking for my vote based upon fixing up the local park when it turns out the local park is not safe for my children anymore. No, 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 no. That's the only response to this coercive relationship we are in with the current domestic government. Let's show the world how it's done, Irish style. As for me, I've one more thing to do, and that's to proudly erect a tricolour back upon my own gate, in my garden, because this is my right, it's my homeland, and it's my Ireland. It's yours too. Make sure you remind the establishment of that every single chance you get.